Party people, Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with a life crafted layout in my Chicago album. And today I'm going to be using the Cocoa Daisy Spice Market Kit. And this collection is sort of meant for more of a Indian spice market sort of vibe, but you can see that it is very, very conducive to these photos of us in Chicago at the National Museum of Mexican Art. And also we went to a highly rated Mexican restaurant afterwards. So you can see the colors are going to work really well. The motifs are going to work really well, even though it's not really meant for Mexico, but that is okay with me because it is perfection. I would not have Spice Market sort of vibed photos to work with anyway, so I'm really super happy to adapt this to that collection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one life crafted page here that's going to be 8.25 by 5. We're going to divide it with this 2x2 page protector in the middle and decorate these squares. And then we're going to flip the page and use this side of the pockets for some photos of the Mexican restaurant. It's called Five Rabanitos, which means radishes, but it's we just happened to be by it because the Mexican Museum of Art is in their sort of Hispanic district, and so it has a lot of great restaurants down there. So we googled restaurants and this one came up as a highly rated one, so we went there and it was really great. Anyway, so these are photos from the restaurant, photos from, there's a beautiful mural on the outside, so I actually printed these so that they were the same width because I'm going to stack them together. And yeah, that's about as far as I've gotten so far, so I'm going to open up the product and start moving.
Alright, so unfortunately I did lose a little bit of footage here in the very beginning stages of my decorating, but it's okay. The video is still good, it'll show you lots of tricks, but this is a lot of photos to stick on one page, especially with such a bright color palette, and so I did struggle just slightly to begin with, mainly with this insert here that has the plates. Like, I really wanted to use the insert with the plates, but all of the papers in this collection are very, very busy, and that paper that I chose to span both sides of the page in the background with the multiple patterns on it was really, really clashing with those plates. In the end, I ended up going with it because I really wanted the two pages to match and be cohesive together, and it works out just fine, but in the beginning I definitely hesitated. You can see I'm trying to separate the plates from that background by maybe turning it upside down, and I would have covered up the Let's Eat. I ended up covering it up anyway. But the plates definitely looked upside down to me when I flipped the page over, so I just left it as is. It only ends up being 3 blocks of color next to the plates, and they're sort of mild colors, so it worked out okay, and it looks fine to me, but I did hesitate to begin with. So I'm going to do the same thing over here with this Traveler's Notebook insert, and so I have the two papers meeting together in the middle. Of course, there's going to be a divider in the center with the 2x2 page protector that's going to sort of separate the two pages, but I do like the cohesiveness because when you have 2 pages or 3 pages basically as one spread, it can sometimes look not cohesive because that 2x2 spread sort of divides both sides up almost completely. So I like to create some matching design elements on both sides of my layout that draw the 2 pages together, so you know you're looking at one full spread instead of 2 separate spreads. So here's where I'm going to start losing a little bit of footage. I kind of struggled a little bit here. I knew I wanted to use these postage stamps, and I knew I wanted to use some of these like pottery. We were in a museum of Mexican American heritage, so there was lots of pottery, and that made a lot of sense to me. So I knew I wanted to use this kind of stuff, but I had so much going on already that I didn't know what to do. So that was the footage that I lost. You can see I decorated with the chipboard pieces, the shaped pieces from the chipboard, and I've started putting down the stamps, but I haven't really done much other than that. So you can see I'm just sort of filling in the pockets here. So I've got these stamps now kind of figured out. I'm going to use them as layering pieces along the top, or along the edges of the photos to sort of give it a little bit more width and a little bit more of a collage feel. So I've pulled out a lot of the stamps that have sort of a Latin flair to them, or they actually have South American countries on them, or they have Spanish, because of course there are a lot of stamps in this collection that are like Middle Eastern or India, that kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure that at least the places matched as much as possible, or the language matched as much as possible. So I've kind of pulled those out, and those are what I'm using to layer here. So I'm kind of creating a border that's reminiscent of the paper that is on the inside edge of that layout right there. So that's kind of my thought process with these postage stamps. And I will admit, at this point right now, it looks like a hot mess, but it really does come together in the end, I swear. I know that a lot of times the way that I scrapbook is a lot busier than a lot of people's styles of scrapbooking. But I love color, I love design, I love embellishments, and it really works for me. So if this is like too much for you, if there's so much going on that you are a little bit overwhelmed on a page like this, just dial it back a few notches, right? Take what works for you and leave the rest. So I had this one photo that I couldn't crop square because it cropped off important parts of that art piece. So I'm just matting it with a little border on the side there. You can see that I added those white word strips to the other squares, and I've added the pottery in one of those empty squares backed on the orange paper. So I just made little collages that match the collages on the left-hand side of the page. So the last thing I'm going to do over here is add a label for a date, trying not to cover up too much of it, but I don't want it to, hang too far out. So now I'm going to switch and I'm going to work on the other side. I've already started a little bit off camera because I lost that footage, but you can see I have the shaped chipboard pieces over here, as well as a couple of collages already started. I'm going to add the title before I don't have any room for it, so I'm just going to add the title or the name of the restaurant, which was Cinco Rabanitos, which is little radishes, 5 little radishes, which is cute. I hope it's a family reference, like he calls his kids little radishes or something, because that's cute. Anyway, I'm using the washi tape as a little border here between the mural photo and the title. I liked the extra pop of orange it gave this page, and also the pattern was pretty reminiscent of Latin America, I think, so it works for me. I used one of the 3x4 cards and cut it into 2 2x2s that's a lot of 2s in a row, to create another set of collages. I had less photos on this side. I actually had photos that I yanked off their website because it was really crowded at the time and I didn't want to take pictures of people, so I just pulled some photos off of the internet to fill in this collage. That hummingbird mural is just gorgeous in person. I'm really glad I found some great photos of it. I love murals, you know that. If you watch my page, I'm constantly posing with and taking pictures of murals. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the other side to make it match. So I'm using these white word strips and creating little collages again. This was so yum, seems perfect. This restaurant is great. It's like a little hole in the wall, but it's highly rated. We had like pork belly tacos and they were amazing. So I highly suggest, if you visit Chicago and go down to the Mexican American Museum, that you go to this restaurant. I recommend. And then I'm going to take this one that says enjoy every moment. I cut it up into 3 so I could put each word strip on each plate. Last but not least, I need to build this last collage, and then actually once I finish this last collage, I feel like I'm done with the page, but then as I am cleaning up my workspace, I pull out the actual like rubber stamps or clear stamps, and I decide to add some stamping here. So this first one, I'm super careful and very smart about it. So because when stamping on home printed photos, it will stick. So if you pull up real slow, just like that, it won't ruin your picture. Second one, I was not so smart, a little bit hasty, and I pull up the stamp too fast, which pulls off some of the paper from my photo. It leaves a little bit of a white outline around some of the words. Not that big of a deal. I didn't love it, but it was still legible and kind of cool, so it worked for me. So I added those in, and then I'm gonna stick it in my album so that you can see how it works all together. And then I'm gonna call it good. There's a lot of a lot of images at the end of this video for you to look at because there's lots of little moving bits and pieces. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Tracy M. Reed. I'd love to see you over there as well. There's a link to Cocoa Daisy in the description box below. All right, thank you.